think believe it's 7 o'clock. We should call the meeting to order.
Could you see?
Everyone's scary things last time.
That's my favorite order. Okay, you want to call the roll? or you want
Yes,
me to
I'll call it.
Okay.
Okay, Patrice Berlin.
I'm here.
John Krakow is unexcused. Claire is here. Alex is Becky. Here. Lisa Corizon is not here.
No, she's back there.
She's here.
I'm sorry. Oh,
She's starving to death.
yeah.
She's,
Okay,
She's in the back.
I'm sorry. All right, so she's here. Patrick Lewis.
Yeah.
Heidi McKay is unexcused. Richard Niederberg.
Yes.
Eric Previn.
Present.
Craig Radow.
Here.
Rob Schiller.
Here.
Richard Welch.
Yes.
Andrew Sussman.
Here.
Rita Villa here. Denise Wellbank. Here. Okay, so we have. So we have 12 voting members present,
okay.
and it will take 7 to pass a motion.
Okay. All righty. Roll call done. Now, I believe we have the approval of the February board minutes. Does anybody have anything to say about February board minutes? All right, we will approve the minutes as
Approved in the absence of objection.
I have a quick
Yes.
comment on the minutes.
Yes.
I thought that some of the items were referred to committee, but they didn't get referred to committee. There wasn't a committee meeting, they just came right back. So does the minutes reflect that they went to committee, or does it just?
If they were referred to committee and they haven't come back, they're not on the agenda.
So it doesn't affect the minutes, because that was what the
Right.
directive was, just that it may or may not have been followed. Okay, thank you.
okay, we've approved
Or you
that.
got that.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, hello, everybody. Yeah, we've got a few people. I think the rain would scare some people away. I have been told that the councilman's office was calendaring all of the movies in the park and all of the things going on throughout the summertime. Okay. What? If we're gonna do movies, we need to chat it.
Okay.
Okay? All right. And I have requested visitations by Paul and Adrienne. They're busy. Paul is busy through what, May?
Correct. I'm looking towards, I'll talk about when I come up, but.
Okay, all right. All righty, and Adrienne's field rep, I guess, where she is? No? Yes?
No, I won't see you with that.
Okay,
She's not here.
you just need to forward. Okay, anyway, we were waiting for an opening for Adrienne and Paul to come visit us. We have public comments on non-agenda items.
1 second.
Yes.
I know we have at least 1 and 2.
Okay, Leah Garland.
That was quick.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna look at my cord. Hi. My name is Leah Garland, and I'm volunteering with Stand LA. That's Standing Together Against Neighborhood Drilling. And when I finish my comment, I'll just pass out a document for you guys to read. I can also send it to you electronically. This document will explain the science behind what we're about to talk about. Currently, there are no zoning laws in the city of LA regulating oil wells and their proximity to residences, hospitals, schools, and other sensitive areas. In towns and cities across the U.S., there are such regulations, including Dallas has a setback, but not here in LA, despite the fact that we have a density of 628,000 Angelenos live within the danger zone. The danger zone is 2,500 feet. Stand LA recommends a public health and safety buffer of 2,500 feet. It's what a panel of independent scientists concluded was the distance of most significant impact from oil well and gas development. In fact, 2,500 feet is on the lower end of the range of distances where we can see adverse health effects occurring. Those people most at risk are those who already suffer cumulative health, environmental, and economic burdens. There are also children, the elderly, and those with compromised immune systems. This past February, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health released a report outlining the health impacts oil drilling has on Los Angeles communities. And the report concluded that the practice of neighborhood oil drilling presents a clear public health concern and recommends that the County of Los Angeles and local jurisdictions take measures to protect communities. We at STAND ask that you write a letter, a CIS, to City Council and ask them for a setback. Right now, City Council is studying a possible setback, and that's why that health report was finished. I guess that's my 2 minutes. There's no clock, so I can't tell. But so I'll just wrap up by repeating that STAND is a community coalition of people who are affected by oil and gas drilling. We're talking about affected by benzene, which is a known carcinogen, affected by hydrochloric acids and hydrofluoric acids. So I'll be passing out a list of things that, of toxins that affect the body and the different organs of the body that it affects, and why we need the 2,500 feet setback. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have Lisa Kagan Davis's info?
I can send you her email address. I have her phone number, but I don't have it with me.
She's a person now.
I'm sorry.
There's the head of our sustainability committee, someone you should.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Sometimes people send me to land use. I've been to many of these.
Okay.
I'm a vet at this point. So would you advise me going to land use or
You go to land use.
or sustainability? I'm happy to go to sustainability. And what I will do is I will pass out documents. I don't want to interrupt your meeting. I'll do it quietly. And I'll also send it via the sustainability group electronically, so you can have that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Adams.
We'll try to make this quick. I had all my complaints on USB disk, but this meeting needs to be short. Sustainability at studiocitync.org. We'll get it to everybody on the sustainability committee. We know parking is an issue in this town. We know traffic is an issue in this town. The city screwed up Fulton as a north-south route for people in the area trying to get from south of the boulevard up to the freeway where it passed it. I don't need to tell you how bad Laurel Canyon and Coldwater are day in, day and out. Well, maybe about 2 o'clock in the morning you can get someplace on it, but that's about it. The other option in our neighborhood west of Laurel Canyon is Whitsett, which they made no parking on both lanes northbound from 3 to 6. Sometimes it's enforced by parking enforcement, sometimes it's not enforced by parking enforcement. And sometimes they write the tickets, but they don't tow away the cars, and other times they get rid of the cars. It's a crapshoot like everything else in this town. Today I went to go down Whitsett, and the Film LA people in the city very carefully and very thoughtfully allowed parking along Whitsett right in front of the Church of Scientology, not Scientology, God forbid, Christian Scientists, real church, and regardless of the no parking from 3 to 6. So amazingly enough, there's a massive traffic backup there all the way to Ventura, and then they decided to block traffic both ways while they did something with the trucks. Film LA doesn't care about anything. I know a lot of you make your living in the industry, and I understand, appreciate the industry. That brings a lot of money, a lot of jobs, all that happy noise. But they should have given more parking on one of the other streets and not on Ventura, not on Whitsett. And it's just an ongoing problem with the people downtown making decisions and passing out approvals don't seem to care or pay attention to the actual facts in the neighborhood. I don't know what anything people can do, but Jessica's here, so maybe she'll wait. Thank you. Thank you.
That's it? All right. That's good. All right, any comments?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
So a couple updates. I'll start first with LAFD. So I had gotten some concerned constituent calls and in-person meetings with individuals who live up by Fronman because they're near a state park, and pretty much they do have fire insurance, just so you know, they have insurance. They want to have a community meeting about it, so I'm going to work with the two LAFD stations along with Adrien Nazarian's office, MRCA, to schedule something in the summer. I have a location of a woman who's willing to host the meeting, so I just need to get everyone together to do it. And I'll let you guys know as that progresses when that is. Homelessness, the big issue we deal with. So I have been getting some phone calls, some forwarded emails, some forwarded posts on Nextdoor about the ongoing conversation with homelessness. Long story short, I have met with several members on the board last year about starting a homeless committee. So to try to streamline that and not suck everyone's time, because it is time consuming. I will name, so the people so far that are interested in this are Patrice, I believe it's Patrick, right?
Yeah.
Keith, Craig, and Peter Cole, who I don't think is here. So if anyone else is interested, please let me know, because I'm going to host another meeting at our office so we can kind of get the ball rolling and how to get this done. I want to schedule a meeting with myself and Lorraine, who's our field rep in our office, but she handles all of the homelessness issues. She is the one that created the town hall. There's another neighborhood council that already has a homeless committee. So rather than starting from scratch, I'd rather help you guys replicate that and kind of have a goal more focused into what you want to do. Whether that goal is, we'll help with cleanups, we'll help fund, a food drive or a food pantry, because there's one in Studio City. I would want to make your lives easier, but give you guys the right information so that you can do that. And I would think the first thing you guys need to do is a lot of information to educate yourself so that you can educate the community, because a lot of it is just they don't know. In the back, I put some flyers. One of them is for an event related to homelessness, and one is related to homelessness. And I would also, at that meeting, we can discuss, there's people that I have in mind who are willing to come and speak for you guys as well. And I think because there are so many people, I don't want to replicate the problem that they had at the town hall, which is too many people talking, not enough time for questions. So if you want to bring some people here, I'd recommend maybe having a topic. We'll talk about housing for the homeless this night, right? Or food for this night, cleanup for this night, so that people can actually say what they need to say and then get answers to their questions. Because that was a big complaint. Next up is LAPD. If you don't already know, Sean Smith is away for the month. He'll be on duty with the HOPE team. For anyone who doesn't know what the HOPE team is, it is a division of the LAPD solely designed to go out and build relationships with the homeless community in their efforts of getting them off the streets. And they house about 15 to 20 people a month off the street. That's a fact. For some reason, they just don't get media attention, don't know why. It is what it is. And there is a HOPE team that is solely responsible for the LA River as well. Let's see, traffic enforcement. Officer Roush, he retired last year, and we have a new guy named Brian Mivelez, yeah. He's great, so if anybody has any complaints about speeding, let me know, and I'll send him out to you guys. I'll give them your information, and he'll reach out to you. I had him place a speed trailer at Ventura near Arch Drive. That is an area that has a lot of accidents, particularly usually on the weekends, because you can't really speed during the week because, people, busy. But on the weekend, it's very, very bad. So I had him put the speed trailer there so he can give me an estimate of what the speed is, so that if I do want to do a speed trap, I will consider it. I'm really highly considering it, actually. But I do have concerned neighbors who live around there. A lot of them are elderly as well. They've applied for speed humps, and that program has since closed, and it won't reopen until October, so everyone knows. Potholes. I'm getting calls about this today because of the storm. It will create potholes. I will drive around, and anything I see a pothole, I report it to 311, but everyone else can do it too. Just so you know, I don't know if you guys have like a system with the transportation committee where you guys do that, who knows? But just so you know, potholes. And the movies in the park. I will need to know the dates for my calendar by April 10th. So, and if you need it, there's another, they haven't, I think I sent you the email that shows we found another company that's cheaper if you don't want to use our services. And also, I really, really, really would like to do another cleanup, preferably 2. So we can touch base with whoever would want to do a cleanup, which will also be the homeless committee. Yes, please. Because I would like to get another one done, preferably by the river, 2 preferably. And I'll help with that, with funding assistance, all of that kind of thing, but I would like you guys to partner with us to do that. I believe you did fund the last one, you gave some funding for that. And last but not least, I noticed on the motion of, in your budget item number 7, there's a motion to approve and allocate funding for 2948 for Gate. I don't know what school.
Carpenter.
So is this gate near this, so would it be near this section of the Caltrans?
It's the gate where, no, it's on Carpenter. Do you know the campus very well?
Yeah,
There's, if you're looking at the school,
okay,
to the right, there's a chain link fence, and there's a gate that goes in it, and that gate is, I mean, you can just kind of, it's ancient.
Okay.
They want to put a updated gate with a lock code on it. Principal Martinez should be here soon.
okay. I met with her last week and asked her if she'd use anything from the city to contact me, anything. Because I asked because if it was related to like the section closer to where there are homeless people sometimes, who are like, where the Caltrans part, we have funding that we can put up gates. So I was gonna say if that was the case, we would pay for it.
They have the gate on Laurel. You know which gate I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They want to put that exact same one now on Carpenter.
Okay,
They're just locking it, and they can lock down the school a whole lot earlier.
right. That school has a lot of filming, just so you know, a lot of filming. So they get money from Film LA. If you do have any locations, Craig, like in any areas, and I have a few on my list, where they kind of like tear apart our fences to hang down by the river, if you can make a note of any locations you hear of and let me know, because I have a list I'm creating to send so we can get the nice thick metal gates installed.
The one that's on, similar to the one on Tahunga?
Yeah,
Because that's made a difference.
yes, it does.
The one by 7-Eleven, Tahunga, just north of Ventura Boulevard. It's made a big difference, and the problem right now is on, I believe, on Vineland.
Right.
Well,
I'm going there next week with people from the
it's worse than
county.
ever on Tahunga right now.
What's that?
In the river by Tahunga on the, whatever side, on the south side, it's way worse than it's ever been right now.
Yeah.
There's full tents.
Yeah,
Yeah, anyways,
county side.
there you go. Yeah.
So I'm gonna be going out with the county in person, to try to get things, so I have connection because the county supervisor's office had never actually met with the county people who's in charge of cleaning up the encampments until yesterday in my office. Bringing people together is what I also do for a living apparently. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Eric, anything to add? No. Teresa,
I'm good.
right?
No, just thank you for the work you're doing, being a bridge between the council office and bringing us information, but I think also being an advocate for our community. And thanks for giving us some concrete and positive actions that we can take in terms of cleaning up and making a difference in our community. So,
Thank you. I love it. I love helping.
Yeah, very glad you're working with the county to get something done now, because that's very important.
Yes, the county is,
Slower to move.
fun.
I have a quick thing. Realistically, the P71 problem is just getting worse and worse and worse.
The what is?
The P71,
What's
the club over on Ventura.
Oh, the lounge. Yes, Sean Smith, thank you for reminding me. They have a vice team working on it now.
Okay. In terms of noise complaints, I know that is a law, but it's
Correct.
obviously never enforced.
Right, it's not high priority, but they will eventually get out there, but it probably won't be, it'll probably take 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right, but he has a vice team on it.
Okay.
So there's a specific unit who's handling it. Their goal is to, he and I working together with the city attorneys on a long-term solution with them. They've shut them down before.
Yeah. Okay.
We're working on a,
I trust you, I got you.
yeah.
Rob?
Vice team, I was like, ooh, like Miami Vice. Yeah.
Thank you. No?
Yeah, actually, to piggyback on the noise issue with P71, I live near Harvard Westlake School, and lately, you know, we've had some issues with noise having to do with outside activities.
Relating to Harvard Westlake?
Yeah, that they rent out their facilities for other groups.
Okay.
Recently, it's actually a really noble cause, but they had a lady on their microphone that just went nuts and yelling, and turns out the event was like for 100 people, and we have thousands of people that surround the school. My concern is that, when are we gonna be able to really ascertain what their limitations are on noise as far as the scope of being a school and the scope of being an entity that hosts other outside groups?
So.
Because the reason I'm leading to that is because, you know, we have a big thing that's gonna come up with Weddington.
Right.
And so I just wanna make sure that we can create a consistent a barometer, right? So we can all kind of look at what are we gonna go up, meaning what are we gonna compare this to? Because we don't have anything in the past.
So
to go
it would be in their CUP, which is, I can't even remember what that is right now, but it's a planning document that they talk about that kind of stuff in, and it has certain restrictions depending upon.
Conditional use.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
but
there's,
as a school, now,
Correct.
as an entity.
they can
that
still be in them too.
Right, so if they rent out to, say, you know, I don't know, Air Force cadets with flyovers of F-16s.
They still have to follow the same rules.
Right, but that would be more egregious and noisy.
Correct.
So my question would be is, when will we be able to ascertain and sit down and open the books and on behalf of the neighbors and the community, express what can and what cannot be done?
You mean in terms of Weddington?
There's no, actually, the school, as a school,
Okay.
or as an entity renting out their facilities.
Oh.
At what point, because I know the laws,
Right.
as far as noise from their, they can't emulate, they can't make noise from
Right.
their, you can't be able, you shouldn't be able to hear it from their perimeter.
Correct. And they have people that go out and like, just like Universal does in various locations to test sound.
Yeah, you see, they have a working, so does the Hollywood Bowl. They have a working entity that's actually monitoring this.
Right.
So
They call it noise pollution.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why, I hope that the ravine over there off Coldwater isn't exempt from that, because they still have people that live there,
Right.
neighboring them. So when are we gonna start to broach the issue and come to clarity? And that's my concern, with the school and their abilities to do what they can and cannot do.
So, okay.
A dialogue. or-
Okay, so are you asking me to like facilitate a meeting with people?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
But on top of that, I just want to mention and echo what Richard said regarding your input, your involvement is unbelievable. I've never seen it since I've been on the board for the last 4 years, so
Thank you.
thank you.
I implore everyone to let Irene know.
You let me know, I'll get that information, yeah.
Andrew?
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank
No problem.
Gibson,
Gibson, our representative from Dunn is up next.
No.
Gibson said he needs some time.
Oh, he needs it.
You can,
Why are we wasting our time?
Point of order, did he turn in a comment card? Don't turn a comment card, you're not supposed to be able to talk, anybody.
I want to hear what he says. I'm looking forward.
Good evening, members of the board. President, members of the public. My name is Gibson from the Department of Member Empowerment. I just want to reiterate a couple of things of clarity. I do want to apologize that the department did take some, did take a little longer in terms of providing a response from last month's meeting. Definitely wanted to make sure that there's some full clarity in regards to the office removal process. And I think in the email, one thing I definitely sort of reiterated is how if an officer is to be removed through the board officer removal process, once a petition is passed out to the board and is not agendized, I think the one thing we wanted to clarify is how is the process if the president is not able to agendize that matter, if the petition is brought out to the whole board. And if the matter is not agendized after the petition crosses the board, I think I detailed it in the whole email. the board member can file a grievance against the neighborhood council in regards to this request for petition. And I detailed it in this email. I just want to make sure that everybody received my email this afternoon.
Yes.
It just kind of gives a, no?
Maybe I could have missed it, but I didn't get anything.
I got it.
Okay,
Did it
so-
come to
Rita,
board?
you may be having a
You must be
problem.
having a problem.
Okay, but if it went to board at Studio CNC desk, I would have gotten it.
Okay, so you didn't receive it, Ms. Rita, so I'll make sure you do receive it.
Yeah, please just
I
send it.
just want to
What time did you
reiterate.
send, what time did you send it?
I sent it this afternoon at,
Rita, did you get the second email from me?
I didn't check the email.
3:08, yes. Or 3:20.
Until I got here, so.
Because this is rather redundant, you already sent it.
No, I just want to make sure that everybody has received it, and I think I want to make sure that it's a matter of public comment. In addition, I want to bring up a couple funding items as well. So in terms of, I know we're still in the fiscal year, but I definitely want to make sure everybody is aware of sort of the fiscal dates in regards to submitting documents for events. Is May 20th is the final date for request for an event approval to the city clerk's office. June 1st is the final day to make a check request to make a check request in this fiscal year, and June 20th. In addition, I want to bring up item number 8.
I'm sorry, you just went a little bit fast for me and I didn't get it. So the May 10th was the final date to.
May 20th?
May 20th is the final date.
Final date to submit a request for event approval to this office of city clerk.
Right.
June 1st is the final date to make a check request. And June 20th is the final date for any bank card transactions. In addition, I want to discuss item number 8. I want to, just a quick question, was this matter discussed in the bylaw committee? Because when I checked, the bylaw committee did not meet to discuss this bylaw. Is this a motion to pass a specific, is this to make a change to the bylaw, or is this a matter to just discuss it and put it in the agenda?
It is a motion to add something to our bylaws, or change our bylaws.
So there's concern as to how this matter is being discussed, because even though the president has the ability to post the agenda item,
We're discussing it here.
even if you're approving this motion, it hasn't been discussed in the committee. So are you approving it as a president posting it on the agenda, or is it in regards to the bylaws committee? Which is which?
I posted it.
Yeah, but did the bylaws committee discuss this matter?
No.
So there's concern that there's misguidance as to how the matter was posted, because it wasn't discussed in the bylaws committee before it was listened to the board. If it was discussed as a specific motion by itself, then there's no problem, because the Studio City bylaws do state that the president has the ability to set the agenda. However, in this agenda setting, it states that it was discussed in the bylaws committee, correct? Because it says the bylaws and procedures committee report.
It does not say anything about the bylaws committee.
Right, so is it because it was listed in the bylaws committee that's being discussed in item number 8? Or is it being discussed? Because if it wasn't discussed in the committee, there's concern for it.
It was not discussed with the bylaws, by the bylaws committee. It doesn't say anything in here that the bylaws committee looked at it. It says that it was based on an approved bylaw in the Las Villas.
Okay, so I just definitely want to also advise that once this matter is discussed today, please, if we can submit the bylaw application to Boncry to make sure that it just, will that be sort of, will that process be followed, or, okay, will I be able to get an application?
That is the standard process. If you approve a change to your bylaws, you have to send it to Boncry.
Okay, no, just want to confirm that part. That was my question in regards to whether it was listened to the committee or was it discussed in the bylaws committee. So that's a no.
I think I answered that thing for every time now. It was not discussed in a bylaws committee because they did not have one.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we discuss that. Thank you.
Right on time, look at that.
All right. Treasurer's report?
Treasurer's report. This is the treasurer's report for the February MER, which I emailed to everybody for you to look at before the meeting tonight. At the end of February, we have a net available balance of $30,218.63. We have, again, a reminder, 3 months to spend the remainder of our money. It reverts back to the city. And you heard the dates for the last request for events. It was May 30th. The last date for check writing is the 1st, and last event for credit card transactions is the 20th of June. So things have to get to the budget committee first before being presented to the board. So that takes a little time, turnaround time. So just a reminder, everybody's got any pet projects or anything they want to bring up, to submit it to Patrick and the budget committee for discussion to bring to the board. And let's try to do some good with what we have left. You can go online now. Everybody can go online and see the receipts for all the expenditures. We do have some outstanding ones that will be uploaded shortly. And that's all I got.
We have the motion.
Okay, yeah, we have a motion. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council has reviewed the monthly expenditure report for February 2018 and hereby accepts and approves. I believe we have to do a vote count. Alex is Dickey.
Yes.
Andrew Sussman.
Yes.
Greg Radow.
Yes.
Eric Grevin.
Yes.
Heidi McKay is not here, neither is John. Keith Schwallenberg.
Yes.
Lisa Karajian.
Yes.
Patrice Berlin.
Yes.
Patrick Lewis.
Yes.
Richard Welch.
Yes.
Richard Niederberg. Richard.
Just say yes.
Bylaws approved.
No, budget.
Budget. The MER approval. Rita.
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it unanimous?
Yes, it is unanimous.
Yes. No.
Okay, now we're on to the budget committee.
Yeah, so we had a meeting, it lasted all of about 4 minutes. We approved this pretty quickly. I'll read it, and then Principal Martinez, fresh off his star-making turn as Anakin Skywalker, is that what it was?
I call him Luke Skytinas.
There you go. Anyways, let's just have Principal Martinez come up and give us a lowdown on it.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me. Literally 20 minutes ago, I was on stage at our school auditorium, a play called Time Warp, playing Luke Skywalker. So, thank you for having me. Appreciate that. I'm Joe Martinez. I've been the principal at Carpenter for the past 9 years. Really, for the last 4 years, we've been trying to tighten security at our school. Really, ever since Sandy Hook. When Sandy Hook happened, the school district gave 2 campus aides, which are essentially kind of security officers for elementary schools. We have one in the morning, one in the afternoon that kind of patrol the campus to make sure that everybody is safe, nobody's hanging around our gates that shouldn't be hanging around. And so we are very grateful that the district provides that. We also put peepholes in every door. We instituted a policy of keeping all of our doors locked during the school day. We are right on Laurel Canyon, so anybody could potentially hop the fence and create a disturbance or a problem at our school. We put a security door in the main office so that anyone entering the school has got to be buzzed into the campus, if you will. We have security cameras that we've put in over the last 4 years. Also, just trying to tighten up security. So last year, we put 2 security gates on the campus because all LAUSD schools are essentially open campuses until 6 o'clock at night, meaning when school ends at 2:30, that the gates are open, anybody can freely come and go on the playground. We have about 300 to 400 kids that participate in after-school programs with gates that are wide open. And so our safety committee looked at how can we tighten those things up, and we were able to pull some funds together to put a security gate on Laurel Canyon that has a passcode entry so that all of our parents do a 4-digit passcode in order to enter the campus. We put one in the parking lot also so that those parents that come later in the evening, and the parking lot is off Carpenter Avenue. So you have one on Laurel Canyon and one on the parking lot. Our goal for next year is to have a security gate in the front of the school by the front door entrances so that essentially as soon as school ends at 2:30, everything is locked. Anybody that wants to enter the campus needs to have a passcode in order to enter the campus. And that goes until 6 o'clock when we shut down our operation for the evening. So we have come to the budget committee to ask for funding. I submitted a quote with the chair of our safety committee, Gretchen Goldsmith. It was like $2,900 in order for Vortex, is the same company that put the Laurel Canyon gate as well as our parking lot gate, installed them with those security codes. And so that money will be used for Carpenter Avenue in order to secure the campus immediately after school beginning next year. That's our goal. We also have implemented a program called Raptor in our main office, meaning anybody that visits the campus has got to submit their driver's license so that my office can scan Megan's Law immediately. It does a live scan on anyone entering, and then it prints up a visitor's badge with their picture from their driver's license on their person, so that if they are doing business on campus, they're clearly marked. And my staff, we're going through badges right now. We've never had badges in 9 years, but of course parents as well as teachers are concerned about security. We just want to make sure that we can guarantee everybody's safety and that anyone that's on campus has been vetted and they have a purpose and a reason for being on campus. That's my reason for being here this evening. Any questions?
Yeah, let's open it up to
Yes.
the board for, or do we have public comment on this? Do we wanna-
Yes, Richard.
Yeah, Richard, do you want to?
Yeah, I was there. I was what actually suggested we made the motion, we increased the amount to cover the whole thing. I don't normally support budget requests for local schools, because a lot of stuff they want is like, you know, somebody else, you know, if they want it for their kids, they should cop up for what it boils down to. This at sport, because it's something that, you know, it's more of government thinking, making sure the schools are secure. And just in passing, based on my background and all the fun things I've done in my life, you've got the locking door at the office, which is your key point to get into campus.
Right.
Okay, the door is locked, you need to harden the door and the walls around it so it's at least projectile resistant. The same thing for locking the doors in the classrooms. If the doors and the walls aren't hardened, they're only locked, not locked. So if somebody's actually out to do really bad stuff, you haven't really slowed them down. But yes, by all means, vote for this. If you come back with a motion for money for doing things like that or a study, I'll support it.
Thank you, sir. Do you have anything else? Any other public comment on this?
I do.
No, then Eric?
Yeah,
anything?
I think it sounds like a good choice. But, you know, another thing that I'm sure you're doing, but is a good thing, is to teach the parents and the people how to be red flag spotters. Because of course, you know, you think about these kinds of solutions and you go, oh, you know, it's our libraries, our hospitals, everything. You know, because everywhere, we're vulnerable everywhere. And I know you know that, but I also think it's important to lock this.
The danger is somebody coming up behind a family that knows the passcode and just kind of entering with them. So we are communicating with our families, to his point, to verify, hey, who's your kid? What class is your kid in? If they don't recognize somebody that's trying to come through the gate, or then just to call the office immediately and notify us that, hey, there's a problem, someone's coming in, they seem a little bit suspicious.
Right, I hate to say it, but even, you know, kids who are stepping out, you know, straying.
Yeah.
It's just very scary. But
It is. I've been in education for 27 years. I didn't think that, actually, we're doing an active shooter training on April 10th with Colfax Dixie at Carpenter. I'm hosting it with LAPD. When did you ever think that this was going to be a training that you were going to be doing with your teachers? Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'm totally behind the financing the gate, except that Jessica mentioned that she spoke to your school to see if you guys needed anything, because there is money in the budget with the city instead of it coming from us. So why?
For homelessness, so it has to be
So,
related to.
right, I didn't,
Right.
it's got to have something to do, or come within a certain amount. Will you, is there money
So
there?
We have funding. Hello again.
It's good to see you.
So we have funding that can help for like gates, if it's near like an area that's close to a riverbed or someplace that is prone to having homeless people. So that we can provide you with funding that would, the nice solid steel fencing.
So thankfully, that has not been an issue for us at the school in terms of homelessness in the area. That's
room.
This month.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. To this point, that has not been an issue for us, yeah.
Greg?
Obviously, I'll be supporting this. I just, you know, I've been watching some Facebook posts lately, and I think an area that hopefully you'll dive into, the teachers with the students, is how these students, especially in this neighborhood, have to interact with one another and not pick on each other and be respectful of each other. I think there needs to be some, and I don't think the word's counseling, but seminars or education of respecting one another and not picking or bullying and all that. And I believe you said you're working on bullying programs?
We have got a lot of programs in place for social, emotional well-being of the kids. So unfortunately, we have 1,000, I don't know how many kids I had last time I was here, but we're up to 1,017 currently. And when you have 1,000 kids on one campus, there are from time to time going to be some issues that we're working through. I've got a great staff that handles those kinds of situations. Personally, I try to stay off social media because it is a hotbed for everybody to voice a concern rather than contacting the school to notify us of something that I can deal with. I really don't know what situation you're talking about.
Oh, no, I was saying I heard, there was that viral post of the girl and the day they did the walkouts, and she was like, we're all walking out and you're all laughing about it, but all you have to do is start being nicer to people.
From Carpenter?
No.
Oh, okay,
No.
all right, yeah, okay.
No. I'm just saying, I see that as being very important, that unfortunately, a lot of the people who've been set off on these rampages have been picked on.
Sure, yeah. Well, and
Just something to be mindful of.
yeah,
I know
we
you
have counseling programs for kids. We have a place called 180 on campus where I've got actually a retired executive from CBS, a grandpa that lives in the neighborhood we've hired. He does counseling for kids that are having some issues with their peers. Maybe they're a little too physical. Maybe they need somebody to give them some advice. So they do a couple days with him in an area where we have games and foosball tables and that kind of thing. We have animal therapy on our campus where kids work with a Labrador Retriever once a week to learn how to share, take turns, and that kind of thing. So I do have I've got a school psychologist that oversees these programs, and the school also allocates funding for 4 family counselors every year to be able to service kids that are in need of that kind of support. So we do have that in place.
Thank you. Richard?
No, thank you for your
Rita?
service.
We did fund a program that you were going to have a year or so ago related to racial relations or
Exactly.
something like that.
We did, Dr. Derek Gay.
We were hoping to have some feedback on that, and we had requested that at the time. We never received it. I'm not asking you to do that tonight. But
Okay.
maybe in the future you wouldn't mind coming back and giving us a brief update.
Absolutely. Put me on the agenda next month and I'll definitely will do that.
Okay, thank you.
Because we've continued the work in that area.
I
Definitely.
just want the board to hear what happened as a result of
Absolutely. You
that.
put me on the agenda, I will be here.
Thank you.
That sounds good. Schiller?
Thank you.
Vicky?
Yeah, just good point. I applaud the fact that we're gonna help with the gate. My concern, as always, is that we're brought forth so many very necessary things that our surrounding community needs.
Sure.
My side, I'm kind of conflicted. I want to help, and I will vote to help. But my problem is that why is the city not being held its feet to the fire, LAUSD, to provide this immediately out of their budget? And so I have to decide if it's good to fill in the gap. I don't know if that's what our purpose is, or rather hold their feet to the fire to just manage their nightmare that they have so it can better serve your needs.
Sure.
So, you understand? I'd hate for this to become commonplace, not in relation to Carpenter and your great operation, but just again with our LAPD and other things. We're not here as a stopgap for the ineffectiveness of our city. We're here to help and promote our own entity here in our community. So anyway, that's my just 2 cents, and I just wanted to throw that out.
And I hear you. The only thing that the district has provided are those 2 campus aids that I've talked about since Sandy Hook, right?
Right.
Everything else that I mentioned to you, from a security door in the front office to that Raptor system that checks IDs at
Yeah.
real time, those are all things that the school has implemented with the school's own budget. So the district has not provided any assistance. Again, there are hundreds and hundreds of schools that they would have to provide that to. So we've been proactive at the school trying to ensure the safety of our kids, which I imagine and I pray that all schools are doing the same thing. So
Yes, of course.
I hear you.
You had something a minute ago. You lost it.
No, I thought we were just moving.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah, then we got,
As part of the Studio
down.
City community, I support this.
Keith?
loving and support.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, Mr. Weaver, anything? Let's put it to a vote.
Okay.
Oh, it's funding.
It's funding, so we have to cover each board. Alex is Vicky,
Yes.
Andrew Sussman,
Yeah,
Craig Radow.
Yes.
lovingly.
Eric Previn.
Yeah.
Keith,
Yes.
Lisa Grudgeon,
Yes.
Patrice,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yep.
Richard Welch.
Yes.
Richard Niederberg.
Yeah.
Rita Villa.
Yes.
Bob Schiller.
Yes.
And me. Unanimous.
Cool. On the behalf of the Carpenter School community, I thank you all for your support for this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And put me on that agenda. Patrick, you know how to get a hold of me, yeah.
So I can submit it.
Yeah.
All right. Now we have number 8. It's brought by me. It needs a second.
I'll second it, so we can talk about it.
All right. We've had issues. The lovely city attorney said we had to come up with definitions. The Las Vegas bylaw, neighborhood council bylaws are approved. So this is essentially based on the Las Vegas bylaws, which the city attorney approved, and ours. It's kind of a meld. If you want, I'll read it and then we can discuss it. All right. Any 2 unexcused board meeting absences or combination of unexcused meeting absences, board or committee, within a 12-month period constitute grounds for expulsion of the board member.
No!
You killed it.
It's already dead.
That's why we can't have an explanation.
Okay, all right. Where are we? In accordance with these bylaws. If a member's absence exceeds the threshold enumerated here, board's president shall automatically place a motion on the regular board meeting agenda. Attached for review, the approved meeting minutes documenting the board members' vote anyway. Any meeting of a board or committee scheduled and noticed as per the Brown Act shall constitute a meeting for the purpose of determining board member attendance. Board member attendance shall be recorded in the meeting minutes and approved by the board committee, which will serve as the document of record for meeting attendance requirements. Definitions of a meeting absences, meeting attendance shall be recorded in the meeting minutes, noting board members' arrival and departure times. An absence shall be recorded if the board member is not in attendance for the meeting duration. Call the order to adjournment. Attendance is late arrival, early departure. Board members arriving late after roll call or leaving early before adjournment shall apprise the president or chair or secretary before sitting down or leaving the table, so the time will be noted in the minutes. Absence is excused. Immediately after the meeting is called to order, a roll call attendance will be taken, and the president chair shall announce the board members who have been excused and the reasons provided. Any absence without prior notice shall be considered unexcused in accordance with the bylaws. In the event of an unanticipated circumstance, emergency, sudden illness, auto accident, act of God, etc., the president chair may also grant an excusal at the next board meeting. The president chair has the prerogative to request supporting documentation of the emergency. The board may appeal and overrule the excusal by a 2/3 majority vote of those board members present at the meeting. Do we have any comments? No.
Yeah, do we have comments?
No, I mean, from.
Yeah, Richard Adams.
No, I specifically left this item out.
I'm sorry, I thought that was, you did, 8 is crossed out. Sorry.
Eric, do I have to go first?
No.
Oh.
You don't have to. Here, let's start this way.
You know, I mean, I know what I think about it. I'd like to know what other people think too.
Let's start, we're gonna start this way. Keith, do you have anything to add on this?
Richard?
I have nothing to add on it.
No. Lisa? Andrew?
I'm in.
Oh, man.
I'm in favor.
Okay.
Oh, I think it would be.
Mr. Isbicki?
Yeah, I just had a question, and again, I just would like to ask, what is the purpose of, like, I don't know if we had a problem with absences or tardiness, so I don't know why we're approaching this right now, and I just maybe would ask, what is it that has been lacking in our board with absences and tardiness, which require, because there's so many other things we could be working on, that would require us to take issue with this now?
Where have you been?
What do you mean? I've been not tardy and not absent.
Yeah, you, but there has been tardies, has it been late?
Excuse me, I'm asking, hold on, I'm just making a point.
All right.
Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that, and then my other concern, what I've read on this, is that this would just basically bring the issue of whether a board member would be up for being removed if indeed they did have these tardies or there's absences as defined by this, how it's stipulated here. So if I'm not mistaken, nobody has just a unilateral right to remove anybody without discussion by the board and a vote subsequently. So anyway, that was just a comment, actually. I don't need to go back and forth. Thank you.
Rob? Nope. I'll have a quick comment. My God, this is boring. Anyone else so bored about hearing about the bylaws absences thing?
Totally.
Yes, everybody. Okay.
I'm gonna note that in a minute.
What are we gonna do about that?
She wrote to me and I didn't know it. Are we going down?
Yeah.
She's writing something.
Who's up?
Skip to somebody else.
Go ahead,
So-
come back, yeah.
So, I guess in relation to my understanding of an answer to Alex's question, this was brought up by a constituent or a stakeholder who has chosen to remain anonymous, somebody who doesn't even have the level of commitment to this notion of this absence being a problem to show up and participate in our public forum, which is really about the only thing that is the kind of sacred aspect of the neighborhood council. So yes, Patrick, I'm extremely bored with this. I think we've got better things to do with our time. We're talking about how to get rid of people for absences, and we're getting emails from Gibson talking about board officer removals, and frankly, it's sucking the life out of me, my will to participate, my will to feel like there's any kind of significant contribution or ability to pull together as a team. It's depressing, quite frankly. Listen, we can't legislate civil behavior. Either we're going to behave civilly amongst ourselves or we're not. Bylaws is not the answer. Is that my 2 minutes? Because I'll keep going, but.
39 seconds.
Keep going.
Well, that's a good rant, I think. You understand my point.
Greg?
It is just unbelievable with all the issues that LA is facing, Studio City is facing these days, that, and I'm really going to wrap this up in 20 seconds, that we're wasting time on such nonsense. It's just baffling. This crap is not stopping me, and I hope it doesn't stop you and what everyone else is doing. Just plow ahead and try to get results, because this to me is just a waste of time. It's great.
Teresa?
I agree.
Wade?
Ditto.
Yeah. Eric?
Well, I would just simply say I'm going to fight like hell to protect the elderberry bush. And I'll tell you why, Sussman. Sussman, the reason why is because I feel that the people of Studio City deserve more. And on this particular
You're
item.
off topic.
No, I'm back on point. This particular item is silly. It was silly, but not that fun for the recipient of the notification that I've been removed when I come to every meeting and left early from a few or came late or whatever. And I think Mr. Welsh got it right, which is that you can't legislate civility so easily. I mean, we struggle with it up and down municipal government. But at the end of the day, this is a community neighborhood council. So we should be finding a way to, if someone's not showing up, say, you okay? You know, we kind of need you there, because it's, and then if they say, no, I don't like you people, I don't want to participate, then you can get them out and they'll leave, you know. But this is just weird, and I agree that it's a waste of time. And I hope that it goes away and we can just move forward and, you know, attend the meetings, participate, and move forward.
Can we call the question?
Yeah, let's call the question.
Okay. This does not need a roll call. We should do it real simple. Everybody, I'm thinking, everybody for, I'm assuming Mr. Sussman?
I'm in favor.
Okay. Everybody against?
No,
Oh, you
I
were
was
with-
with
you were-
Andrew.
Okay. Everybody against?
The elderberries have it.
The elderberries. Okay. Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Now, yeah. You wanna come up?
Do we have a second on this?
Yes,
Yeah, read a
I
second.
seconded
Okay,
for purposes
got
of
it.
discussion.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I just wanted to just introduce myself to everyone. I met some of you already. I've met Craig at the Studio City Residents Association meeting. But my name is Vanessa Carr, and I am the new Studio City field representative for Assembly Member Nazarian's office. So really looking forward to joining you all and getting to learn more about Studio City. I'm actually a resident here myself. I'm originally from the Bay Area, so I'm new to Los Angeles, and I'm excited to be living in Studio City and to join this neighborhood. So I also just want to make a couple of quick announcements. Next month, the Assembly Member is hosting free women's self-defense workshops throughout the district. They're open to everyone. Even though they're called free women's self-defense, it's open to everyone. So any age, as long as if you decide to bring children, if you have a parent or guardian present, then they're more than welcome to participate. Our Studio City self-defense workshop is actually going to be on Saturday, April 14th at the Recreation Center. So you guys are all welcome to go. And I left some flyers and literature on the sign-in table over there for everyone to pick up afterwards. And then I also wanted to just give a quick legislative update from the Assembly Member. This past month, the Assembly Member introduced AB 1857 and AB 2681. 1857 would require new buildings to be not only life-saving but also earthquake resilient, so making sure that buildings are occupiable after a major earthquake. And then AB 2681 would require all cities to compile a list of seismically vulnerable buildings, and luckily enough, Los Angeles already has that, but it would require it throughout the state of California. And currently I'm working with the Assembly Member Scheduler to get him to come to and give everyone here a legislative update, so hopefully I can get a date down soon so you guys, so the Assembly Member can join you all here. But thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, what is your, we try to get Assembly Nazarian's office involved in some of our activities last year, and they volunteered to get involved, and then nothing. So I'm glad to see you here.
Thank you.
We're gonna try to get the assemblyman, like, we don't really have, I don't think, much of a relationship with our council or our activities. I'd love to get you and him involved. And
Definitely.
so what is your email, or do you have a card you can hand?
I don't have any cards yet, they're not printed, but I'm
Can
happy
you email
to.
the board with your information? Would that be-
Yes, I have Denise's email, so I'll email Denise and then
Great.
hopefully she'll send it out to everyone, but. yeah.
Welcome and good luck.
Thank you.
Rob, did you give her the date of our picnic? Maybe they
Well,
could
that's, we're gonna
work on
invite her.
Yes.
Oh, we're gonna invite
Yeah, I
them.
had a question for you, because this is a statewide issue. I just noticed I saw something on television, and I'm noticing it myself, of the handicap placards, how they're being abused by, I just noticed either that or so many wealthy people are handicapped with the beautiful big cars and handicap spaces. Anyways, my point is that it's just an incredible coincidence. There has to be something done with the placards. It's an antiquated system. You cannot legislate civility and how people would take a real handicapped person's spot. My question is, I'd like to find out what is the California DMV doing about aside from doing these spot inspections, which
Yeah.
are just to look really good. but there has to be something technological that we can start protecting our handicapped citizens that really need these spaces. Because just distributing these placards is literally making the whole point of having them irrelevant. So I'd like to at least start a dialogue and maybe tie in some out of the city, but I know it's a state issue. What are we gonna do about this? It's terrible right now. It's
I don't
absolutely
have an
out of
answer
control.
for you unfortunately right now, but I'd be happy to take a look and look
Okay.
into it a little bit more and
Maybe we can stay in
yeah, if we
touch.
can meet,
I'll bring it forth.
get a coffee and talk about it a little bit more, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Yeah. no
So
problem.
are you working closely with the county to your point earlier about the homeless on the county side of the wash between Tahunga and Colfax? That's been an ongoing problem. And some of it's county and some of it's actually the owners of the business. But does that fall under your world or?
Well, we usually have mostly Caltrans properties, so near the highways, the
You're more focused on the
on-ramps, and the
highways.
on-ramps is that's something that our office can really be responsive on. And usually Caltrans, we have a Caltrans liaison that we directly communicate with, so we can get those sites handled. But in terms of county property, it would be best to contact your county supervisor.
We just really have to watch we have a lot of underpasses.
Yeah.
And you know, one encampment forms and then another one comes. We just have to.
So Riverside and Tahunga would be her options,
Riverside.
the one everybody's talking about.
Right, in North Hollywood.
Yes, that's one of the sites that we're aware of.
So you're
already.
working on that?
I think someone else, I think a couple months ago, it does take about 4 to 8 weeks for an encampment to get cleaned up, so once it's reported, it does take some time, unfortunately.
Yeah, as they get larger, it takes longer.
Yeah.
That's why we really have to, when it's one or two, jump on it.
But we're definitely aware of the Riverside site already.
Great.
I have a just quick question. I wonder if there are any places to park for people when they, because I've noticed that there's a lot more oversized vehicle stuff going up everywhere, so that people are restricted, and obviously people in motorhomes are restricted, but other cars too. And, is Nazarian working alongside Krikorian to provide a good-sized parking lot or access to one? Do you know about that? Because that's something that would really, a lot of the people who are homeless are people like you and me, but they're just living in their car, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's, unfortunately, I'm not too familiar. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, it's my second week.
Well, maybe-
Sorry, I don't have much information on that hand, but I'd be happy to
Yeah,
look
bring it
into
up.
it,
It's a good area.
definitely. So for the next meeting, I can give you guys some updates at least.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Are we tabling, Craig?
Motion A, if you want to
It needs
table,
to go to the budget, yeah.
and then go to motion B, and then, first I'll give an update, and then we'll do motion B.
Read that, right?
Yes.
So tomorrow night, public safety meeting, we're gonna have Todd Gilman, who's the new neighborhood prosecutor for the North Hollywood Division. You can see in my agenda the things he plans to talk about. He'll answer questions. We're also going to take up the vehicle dwelling, to your point, because that's set to expire in July. Work on the proposal for more officers is going very well. And we should have that solidified in the next couple of months. We're working closely with CPAB, NoHo Neighborhood Council, Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council, Valley Village Neighborhood Council. So we're really we're building momentum on that. And then in advance of discussing motion B, and I believe, Rob, you did send out the full neighborhood council budget advocate proposal, right, a couple of weeks ago?
I didn't, our advocate did.
Right, someone did. So in preparation for the 18-19 fiscal budget, this section pertains to LAPD, and I actually think this year their recommendations are specific and fair and could make a difference for Los Angeles. So that's where we are. I'd like to submit a CIS.
But we,
Sorry, did you read the motion?
You want me to read it?
You want to read it, or you want me to read it?
I'll read it.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. In advance of the 2018-19 fiscal city budget, the Studio City Neighborhood Council strongly supports the Neighborhood Council's Budget Advocates' proposed recommendations to protect existing officers, improve their working environment, and provide maximum benefit to the people whose taxes pay police salaries. That was from their language. The Budget Advocates recommend
Yes.
the city work with the LAPD on the following: raise the recruitment budget to $500,000 and give authority for greater outreach for candidates, raise police salaries to discourage sworn officers from quitting to work in neighborhood jurisdictions where the pay is better, increase the sworn personnel to 12,500 as soon as practical, mandate a minimum number of sworn personnel for each division, make the LAPD's unused budgeted funds available for officer overtime instead of returning them to the general fund, hire civilians to cover all non-essential desk jobs to free up officers for policing. I thought these were fair requests.
Can I second it?
Yes.
Thank you, I need a second.
Okay, do we have any public comment?
Richard Adams.
First off, I'd say that all these proposals are so incredibly smart, intelligent, and what we ought to be doing, that it would be a whole day in hell or a miracle before the city council adopts them. I totally support this motion. I would point out, though, that a lot of officers you see sitting at desks are on the injured list, disabled list, whatever, and they're running the desk because they can't go out in the field, and at least you got a cop doing something than getting paid to stay home. But other than that, I support this. I assume we're gonna do motion A next.
That was tabled.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna go to budget.
And I would point out that on your pursuit of more officers, you gotta include Van Nuys CPAB. Because I heard, you talked about North Hollywood, you talked about Sherman Oaks, but Sherman Oaks is out of Van Nuys office. and
Van Nuys is absolutely a part of this,
Okay,
the
because
proposal.
the Van Nuys CPAB is the Van Nuys, a lot of them are Van Nuys neighborhood council, but there's a lot of other neighborhood councils out there, and a lot of them are movers and shakers from going out that way. So the more people who got pushing the idea, I still think it's a little quixotic, but if you don't try, you definitely aren't gonna get anything.
Yeah, it's a little quixotic, but it's also, there's a $10 million shortfall at the moment at the LAPD coming into this budget cycle that is a big problem. And, you know, the Krikorian and the other council members in the public safety meeting were very frowny-faced about it when the police chief's person was mentioning that. And the police chief is gone because we have a new one coming in soon. They're looking for one, as you probably know. And an extra 2,500, because there's about 10,000 now officers, is just, you know, quixotic may be the right thing. But one idea, which I feel strongly about, is as we all clamor about gun violence, you know, there's this retention of sworn personnel feeling that I feel is distorted. Why can't we have security people who are not necessarily always armed? The county approved an item for a bunch of toilets finally. Public Works is going to put in a bunch of places where people can get clean. And they immediately added a armed guard component to that. And I was like, why are we paying for armed guards for a bathroom? You know, you can have guards, and there is such a thing as security presence. There are other places where we don't have so many armed people. I don't want to arm everybody all the time. I want to take care of our problems. But you know, this is an area where this is just like put the pedal to the metal of what we've been doing, and it's too expensive, it doesn't work. So we should be protecting our communities and adding people to this mix. But, you know, as 90% of people who fight this homeless thing know, you need a lot of other solutions than, we can't arrest ourselves, to quote the council member, whoever came up with that one, out of a homeless crisis. So I don't know. I'm not so keen on all these pedal to the metal, as much as I do respect the cops who are working every single day. But I feel like we should be diversifying and finding a way to police that's not at, you know, top drawer sworn money that we don't even have, because we go on the credit card. And that's what the council members are so upset about, because then you pay them later when we can afford it at 3 times what it would cost to pay them now. So I'm done. Thank you.
Look at that, huh?
Getting good at that.
Yeah, right?
No comment other than I do support it.
Patrice,
Same here.
Greg?
Yeah, this is not a homeless motion by any means. This is a crime. I didn't mention homeless. I wasn't going down that route, so just to be clear.
Richard?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Let's make sure we get one of those cops P71, right, Craig?
Yeah.
Right.
I have a small comment. Considering the climate out there where the police have to interact with some of our fellow stakeholders, I don't think they would want to go chat up some of those stakeholders without being armed, because there's a lot of people out there who just assume shoot a cop.
Yeah, I support it, but I'm just curious, let's talk about this in a year and see what all of this has done for us as far as really, because I think what we have here is a mismanagement problem. I believe the city's not, our police department is already paid the top pay in probably the United States, one of the top places. As far as losing the police to neighboring places, neighboring jurisdictions, yeah, but we do offer police really, really good salaries and benefits. My point is that being that our budget already comprises $6 of every $10 to fire and police, which I believe is one of the highest in any jurisdiction, when are we going to start talking about management and the ability for us to better use the resources we already have, rather than just asking for more money? So I do support it because I want to do everything we can, but I'd like to see down the line how this really has impacted it. I hope it does. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I might be politically incorrect, but there are some things I support and a lot of things I don't, and I need to know more information. From what I do know, there's a long list of people who would love to be a police officer in Los Angeles, so I'm not worried about that. And the police officers often have almost double their salary by off-duty type of activities, whether it be helping out at sporting events and stuff like that. So there's a lot of revenue for them. So I just, which I saw also with a lot of the voting for education and teachers and stuff like that, there's a lot of money just thrown in there, and that's not the best way to go. And I'd like to have a little more of a eye on this and a little more information before I support it.
Lisa?
I'm in support.
No comment.
Richard? Mr. Niederberg?
He's not feeling well today.
Okay, this is not a budget issue, so let's do the easy way. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, Mr. Sussman, you're against or?
Opposed.
And I'm opposed.
Okay, we have Eric. Eric is a no, and Mr. Sussman is no.
I want to make one last public safety comment. You reminded me. So they are searching for a new police chief. Beck is retiring, and the conversion will happen as early as the summer. And they've been going to the communities asking for input on the next police chief. And these have been very, very poorly attended. I actually went to the one at Van Nuys Satellite City Hall, and that was the largest one, and it barely had 30 people.
Why do you need input, though? That's a good point. Why can't a police chief just do a good job and work for the community? Why do you need to have all these meetings about something that, what do you want? Just do your job, take care of our community, make sure we don't have crime, and if we do have crime, make sure we realign ourselves so we don't have it anymore. It's like we're rot in so much bureaucracy, we can't even get a simple thing like control of simple break-ins. And again, I want to applaud all the hard work that's being done with with public safety. But boy, it's frustrating. You know, boy, we want to get input. You know what the input is. We need money utilized properly so we can have an effective police force, which we don't have in the San
That wasn't
Fernando
what the input was. That was my input.
Okay.
But the input from everyone else is how lousy the LAPD is doing.
Maybe we need to secede again,
No, but
you know? Yeah.
is-
So we're not getting our money's worth anymore.
Could I be recognized for 1 second?
Are you getting your fair share?
Mr. Zbicki, I just want you to know that the idea of reaching out to the public about what should the police chief be and what should he do, I thought was a good idea. I mean, you know, the people who were behind it were that guy Johnson and Soberoff, from the commission, because they were trying to, you know, not stick someone who they thought were, and make it seem like they were responding to what the people think. So, you know, I think that people do have different views about what policing should be like, and I agree that the result is do a better job and make it safer, but there's a lot of different ways to get there. And so whereas I appreciate your vigor, I do think that whenever people are opening the mic to hear from the public, and if Radau says nobody showed up, you know, we're a little bit to blame for that. People should show up and say what they think, if they care, and I do care. One thing I'll just say in 1 second or less is, you know, tasers are a disaster in a homeless crisis. And now in San Francisco, this is just a general interest, those, you know, the liberal places up north were the last two places that wouldn't deal with it because they couldn't handle 50,000 volts into a homeless person. But now they found a way. The mayor died in San Francisco, and a supervisor who's very familiar took over, who's very familiar with the police union. Now they have it on the ballot in San Francisco. So the last vestiges of, you know, whatever you want to call that, are going to be snuffed out very likely. Or we'll see. Maybe there'll be a big fight against it. But, you know, what can I say? Moving on.
So finally, David Rue is hosting in the first week of April. Dave, you have somewhere to be? I'm sorry, I'm sorry I have to rush. This seems to be an important topic. Well, just let me get my thoughts together. Every time I'm trying to speak, it's like, go. Like, give me a minute I'm trying to convey my thoughts on public safety. To finish this, in the search of the police chief, David Rue is hosting a panel and a conversation the first week of April to discuss this and get community impact. So if you haven't had a chance to go, this is one last opportunity. That's all I want to say.
All right. Do you want to give us a quick synopsis of what the land use committee is doing, sir?
Well, I'll talk about the last meeting. There was nothing on the agenda. A stakeholder, Mr. Richard Adams, brought a project to our attention that was under construction across the street from his house. Mr. Adams was a bit surprised that that project was under construction because we never talked about it in either the land use committee or therefore then before this body. I apologize to you for that, Mr. Adams. I dropped the ball. We didn't talk about that project. I had corresponded with the planner who was reviewing the project and pointed out several problems with the project as it had been presented, primarily that there was a significant amount of grading that would be required in order to take that project into a realistic state. The project went on hold for a while, and my attention was drawn to the Harvard Westlake project and a number of other things. So we never did talk about it. But I have looked at the director's findings, and a number of the problems that I had pointed out are addressed. One is specifically there's a material falsity in the findings of that project, which state that no driveways are being altered. So I don't know what good that will do. Anyway, that project was only a specific plan permit compliance, which meant we would have really been able to comment in terms of things like colors, signage. The rest of the project is pretty much a by right project. We did not comment on it. And one of the things that I want to talk about tonight is that, to my knowledge, we have not really been issuing to the appropriate parties in the city a number of the decisions. I think probably the last 5 or 6 things that we voted on as a board that have come from the land use committee, we haven't voted on anyway, or haven't been passed on anyway, to my knowledge. So that's something I think that we maybe that needs to be some direction that I put some effort in. I know, for example, that Rita, the CIS on the billboards went out. I imagine you probably did that yourself. So maybe I need to learn how to do that in order to be a little better of service in getting these things
Can
out.
I respond?
Denise? Yeah.
Are you through?
I'm through. That's pretty much my
I just wanted to
summary.
respond to Richard's comment. Okay, so we have a corresponding secretary who's responsible for those things. The corresponding secretary has had unexcused absences for the last.
Did you speak into the
couple of
microphone? I couldn't hear you.
Okay, so-
We have a corresponding secretary who's missing in action.
Oh.
He is not called in, nobody knows where he is, and he has missed 3 meetings in a row. We have no idea. And he just, walked away essentially from what we can, we have no idea where he is. And he's been we've tried to contact him. And so we need to have a new corresponding secretary to do the job, if somebody is actually willing to do the job, because, it keeps falling to people to do, and we're not sure, we have to go backwards now. What should have been done and what wasn't been done.
I did the
So,
last few land uses
we needed a
myself.
corresponding secretary, essentially.
And the last GAs, the ones from the last meeting that were government affairs motions, I took care of dealing with them myself.
Sure.
And the last couple of land use ones that I was aware of, I took care of.
Oh, you did take care of it?
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
But it
Picking up
was,
that-
but it was
picking up that
basic,
slack.
I can't do that job. We need someone to fill that position.
No, I understand, and if we, it's something that maybe the land use, I don't know how some of those things have to be issued, and certainly, I mean, I miss our corresponding secretary for obviously a number of reasons, but I remember that particular title was he was kind of conscripted for that, and so I don't know, it's not a criticism of him. I think one of the things to remember is that we all do what we can do with the time that we have to volunteer. It's not, I don't mean this to be a criticism of that. I just think it's a problem that we need to solve. Otherwise, there's not really much point in bringing things up from committee if they're not.
I was going to bring those board comments, so you just were ahead of me on that.
For once, I'm ahead of you.
I would like to suggest we put in, hiring a secretary, put it in our budget, because, I think our job here, as we're voting into office, is to take care of our community and not push paperwork, which is very, very important, but I don't know if that kind of diverts us from what our objectives are, as opposed, who our stakeholders have chosen us to do something. So we have money in the budget, I would think. I would just ask if it would be a possibility to do some of the clerical items, maybe hire someone to do them. Because I do know that I was a corresponding secretary for a little while. It's not a difficult task, but you really have to be focused on what you're doing. And it takes about 4 or 5 hours a month to really knock it all out. If all of the committee members put forth what they should to this corresponding secretary in a template that it should be followed. So I would just encourage us to consider hiring a corresponding secretary or any job that could be clerical based if we have the funds to do it.
In the meantime, though, how are things going to get uploaded? So you could teach me how to do for mine, because I don't want to.
Rita, can you absorb it until we get something?
Well, Eric, I've been absorbing it as best as I can, and it's kind of like on a critical basis, right? Like what I know has a deadline, I try to get to. Things that don't have a deadline, like sometimes the Transportation Committee will have motions that are write a letter to the councilman to request this. Well, that's not a deadline-oriented thing, so his kind of get slipped down to the bottom of the pile because I just haven't got time.
Why are we requesting Rita add it to her when there are people on the board who actually don't have a function outside of coming here?
I was going to ask in the board member comment section that maybe we consider electing a different corresponding secretary.
Right.
Because our other one hasn't been able to attend for whatever reason.
Are we still on land use for a minute?
You didn't call public comment.
Right, we didn't have, and we haven't
Board
had
still.
public comment.
Right, we're still on land use.
Okay, so I have a very brief comment. which is that, first of all, thanks to Karagian for knowing about it somehow and alerting the board that it had been, because Richard had raised the issue.
Somehow,
No, it was,
you know
no,
that I'm
yeah,
part of
no,
the-
it was great. No, I'm not saying somehow in a bad way. I didn't know anything about it. And that's my point, which is not, I was not intending to criticize you, so I hope that didn't land that way. But I am intending to criticize you, Richard, not personally, but I have noticed that there is very little on, and I keep wondering, you know, it does seem like part of the process is to throw them, if they come in the window, you know, through the mailbox, to sort of throw them on the agenda. I don't know how it works exactly, because I'm a little naive, to be honest. And you apologize for getting distracted, so I'm not looking to, you know, smear you in any way. I'm just saying that I do think that land use is one of the, you know, it feels like some of these things require a little vetting. You know, I'm big on outreach in all departments, so that's what I would say, and I appreciate that it's challenging and it's not a
Do we have the public?
I was going to pass on this, but since somebody decided to pick up the scab,
It was not an effort to pick on the scab.
operative term of art, phrase, whatever, it's not, didn't come up here to insult you.
Okay.
Apology accepted, water under the bridge, all that good noise. And yeah, you're right, because it was mostly a by right thing, pretty much all we could talk about was the design review panel. Is the project appropriate? Is it the right size? Is it the right colors? Does it blend with the neighborhood? This thing doesn't do any of them. That's the ball that got dropped. Every single project that comes in really needs to go on your committee agenda, even if it's all by right and there's nothing anybody can do. The neighborhood's still entitled to know what's going to happen before they break ground. And the city dropped the ball on this one too, because you never would have sent you a single email, because the permit was issued earlier this month. But the city took 9, 11, some ridiculous number of days to get the building permit on the website. And they only put it up there after I sent a rocket to all of you and to the city council office. And they looked, and I included the screenshots, and they all went, bad word, and started in on it. And then somebody at Building and Safety finally did their job. That's why you haven't heard anything more about it. You know, I didn't follow up on any of the stuff we talked about that night. But really, every single land use proposal that shows up at this office, as I said, even if it's already approved by God, needs to go on your committee agenda, needs to be reviewed at that, so the neighborhood knows about it, and needs to at least be talked about here, even if there's not a whole lot we can do, so that the public knows. And, I mean, at your meeting this last Wednesday, the one I went to, you referred to, you had a proposal there you were talking about, but it wasn't on the agenda, and nobody here knows about it, and I didn't stick around to find out what it was, but you really need to agendize these things, and that's not, it's just an observation. So, you know, when you people take jobs, treasurer, corresponding secretary, what chair of whatever committee, you volunteer to do the job. Please do the job. If you find you don't have the time, the will, or the interest, resign and let somebody else that does do it. That's all.
Richard and I have addressed this issue. I'll be receiving advance notifications.
Could you, did you give a comment card?
I didn't. Do you want me to do one now?
No, if you just at least give your name.
My name's Mel Randall,
Randall.
and I'm on the Land Use Committee. We have a situation where we needed advance notices of any projects that would affect Studio City in regard to things that should be heard by the Land Use Committee. Notices have been sent out to Richard and I believe to Patrick, if I'm correct, on proposals, but they're not advance notices. I contacted Carl and I want advance notices. He promised me I'd receive them by email, and I've been working with Richard on this, where I'll be forwarding the advance notices to Richard. And so this has already been addressed. Anything that's proposed that would come, that would require approval, permit, or a substantial change of use, I should be receiving and forwarding to Richard. I think we've addressed it as much as we could at this point. I've been out with a cold. I was on vacation, South Carolina. Unfortunately, one of the places we stayed at, Barbara and I, the woman that takes care of the bed and breakfast turned on the air conditioning, forgot to turn it off, had the thermostat down all the way, and I woke up in the middle of the night to about 56 to 58 degrees shivering, and I got a cold. So I wasn't around for the last land use committee meeting, and I haven't dived into my emails. I don't think I've received any advance notice yet, but this call that I'm referring to Carl took place only, 2 weeks ago? Maybe a little further than that, but it was about 2 weeks ago, so that I wouldn't really be getting those advance notices until going forward. So anyway, that's it. So we were addressing that situation where we'll be getting those advance notices.
I'm not sure, Mel was told that there are 2 people who are getting them. I think there might be more. I'm gonna make sure that we're on the same page as far as what that means, because there is Lisette Corvallis sends out applications that are, any discretionary approval that goes to the planning department, but it would not include building permits. So I think you may be talking about something else that I don't know about. We're gonna figure it out.
Well, what I was told, that any proposed projects that would involve a substantial use of the property or a change of use, that I'd be getting the notices sooner than you're getting them already.
That's what
The advance notices.
that
That's
advanced
what we were talking
portion
about
is,
during,
yeah.
before this started. That's what we
Yeah.
had discussed briefly.
And one of the process improvements, well, there are several actually, but there are opportunities to try to have some creative and positive influence on the planning process. One of the things that I would like to look at is when a project goes on hold for a period of time. This is what happened with this particular project. It was on hold after I raised these points and they requested additional information from the applicant. I think we should be re-noticed when they come off hold, because that would help that flag kind of be raised again and say, okay, now you've got to make here's the additional information, we can ask for that information, we can get it on the agenda, so.
Good. That's good.
Good idea.
Should.
Yeah.
None of it for now.
All right, we now have outreach.
Haven't had a meeting in a long time. I'm gonna have one this month or in April. And we're also, as she mentioned, for CD2, I think the idea of meeting together with them and learning from other people. There's a stakeholder who lives in Studio City who has helped out in other communities doing homeless outreach. And she's approached Patrick and I about doing something similar in Studio City. So we're gonna explore that idea, see what we can learn.
I was gonna say, she's not on our text or email.
Yeah, she's
right?
been emailing us. Alexa.
I know she has, but we should add Jessica to that too.
Okay, yeah, we'll get her so she can meet with CD2. And then obviously we have movies in the park, and I want to work with helping our second annual festival. And work with that, figure out what the date's gonna be, all that. Get the word out.
Totally awesome.
Totally awesome, right?
Yes. Okay, okay. You want to talk about bank? You want to talk about?
March 8th, some of us were there at the Carlos Cafe, about 200 feet from here, you know. I thought it was good. We paid for it, I guess, or maybe we didn't, I don't know. But depending on who you believe, bank. It was very normal for their way of conducting their yearly meeting there. And I wish that everybody would go next year.
I would just note that our banner was in the high center position. You're welcome. Oh, and since we're talking about the return of the totally awesome summer kickoff, do you think we can get Adrinda's area to work the dump tank if we get it? Along with the councilman?
That could be a stretch.
Well, if they melt, no loss.
Okay. Cultural affairs, sir? Mr.
Okay. First, I wanted to say, apologizing for dozing a little bit. I was in charge of the hospital today, and they gave me a new, very strong, I guess it's a cough or lung medicine, and it's really kind of zonked me. So I do apologize.
I'll have what you're having.
Okay.
Where can I get some?
Stronger stuff than I'm used to at all. The other thing, of course, is talk about the coastal affairs. On the 24th, which is a couple of days away, we have the presentation we're giving, Washed Away, the Great 1938 Flood at the Studio City. It's being promoted by, and presented by Mary Mallory, who's on our committee. She's the former archivist for the Academy, and so she does a lot of this kind of stuff. And we're doing another presentation about the flood in 1938, a long time ago, at the library, Saturday, March 24th, at 3:30 p.m. I would hope that we'd show her support and show up basically, just watching it, walk in and see it, and then be on your way. I think it's kind of interesting going on. We're in the lowest part of the valley. That's where this is where the confluence of the LA River and the water come together, a couple hundred feet that way. And so we ended this whole area was like underwater. Wiped out a lot of bridges and
Don't give away the
streetcars.
Don't tell us how he meant.
Got pictures.
Spoiler alert.
And she assembled a video PowerPoint presentation, and I think with real pictures, I think you'll like it. Other things with that, then we have the coming up all next month, we have the Friday afternoon movie series. Primarily, they're movies that were made here on the lot. Matt said being the nominal producer, with lots of other star type people, and all shot right here, and so you'll see them on 4 consecutive Fridays at 2:30. You can get over there, it'd be good to see it. It's at the library. I can't think of anything else to say between. No, we're seeing for our actors, we're getting improvements for Luminaria, so hopefully it'll happen. And that's about it, basically. We seem to be doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Thank you, sir.
Pass.
Okay, you want to give a quick,
The Government Affairs Committee meeting, committee didn't meet this time. We had a couple motions that were going to be on the agenda that were carried over from last time, and the presenter of those motions asked that they be moved to the next time, so therefore there just wasn't a need for it. I am working on the SB 827 with the senator, and I'll give an update after our meeting.
Which one's that?
820 is one of the 3 that we just passed last time.
The Wiener bill, is that the Wiener
Yeah, I
bill?
think it's the Wiener bill.
I like that, Mayor, for.
Just passed, right?
It's just looking, no, it hasn't.
We
say
passed a
no.
motion.
No.
Yeah, I thought I read something.
The committee passed it.
From the state level?
This is the alcohol one?
yeah.
No, the
no, no.
alcohol one, there's a different
This
one.
is the
Sorry.
high-density
Yes,
development.
the high-density one is the one we're talking about. I was just trying to see. I want to confirm that.
Yeah, there's somebody from Humboldt.
Yes, it's the high-density one. Yeah.
Okay, so that is
And
next.
that hasn't passed, right? The high-density, it's the other one that we did.
The alcohol.
Right, which
Yeah,
hasn't moved
so
totally forward, but it's moved
Is
to
this,
another
I have a
committee.
question about government affairs. Is this the opportunity to bring something up that's government affairs related, or no? Like, something to maybe look at for government affairs committee? An idea, or no? Save that for the very end.
Yeah, you send, I would say, yes, send it to the committee would be the quickie way.
But you can't say it out loud up in the meeting like that?
Say it out
Well,
loud.
why not? Well, you
Yeah,
say it.
Say it out loud.
So there was a motion at the city council to remove certain items to committee. What a surprise. Kind of like what we do here sometimes, where items get pushed off of the council to the smaller forum. And, I'm against it, because I think that there are people who come to City Hall for the first time, sometimes ever, and they can't figure out what, and then they're told, oh, that already happened in a committee, and I feel like that people who are about to be leaned on, or have a lighting be assessed, taxed, should have an opportunity to speak out in public. And they want that opportunity, but this is like an opportunity, I don't know if it has to do with the games that are being played or not, but I don't like the idea on any, they say, oh, it's about transparency, we'll give you more time over there, behind the curtain, underneath where nobody is around. So I think that it's worth looking at. Rita, I can get you the case file number and see if we have an opinion about it, because I don't think it's the right idea. So that's my comment on government affairs.
Okay, Barry is not here, and he said he had no, there was no meeting, so we're now to comments from board members. Did you want to bring up corresponding secretary on?
Please. Do you want to go?
Yeah, do you want to go
Okay,
around,
well,
or you want to just bring it on?
I just wanted to express concern that, backing on what Richard had said, because he was ahead of me with this concern in addressing it tonight, about the fact that the items that we're passing here don't get out necessarily and filed properly and in a timely fashion, and that's the responsibility of the corresponding secretary. And I have been picking up as much of that as I can, but it's not an efficient process, and we really do need somebody to take on that responsibility. And unfortunately, our corresponding secretary hasn't been able to attend the last few meetings, I guess. And I just think that as a board, maybe it's time that we consider reassigning that, or electing a new corresponding secretary. I don't know that we can necessarily elect that tonight, or what that process is, whether it has to go on the agenda, or can we have a temporary one in the meantime?
We can have a temporary one, but we can't elect anybody until we put on the agenda, which could be next time.
Right, so I was just wondering if there was support here. I mean, there's no point in agendizing it if the board isn't gonna support it, so just kind of looking for a show of hands.
Yeah,
Are you
we're
willing
in
to?
support.
Yeah, I think everyone would be in support of that.
Corresponding
Okay,
secretary.
And I don't think John has any interest in being the corresponding secretary.
Okay, so then maybe we can agendize that for next time to elect. And I just,
But it comes down to the same problem we've always had with that, is that no one seems to have any interest in being the corresponding secretary.
well,
What about Claire? Does she have?
we had the student do that before. It's very tough, and I ended up helping her in the background a lot, because she had a test, she was here, whatever, it's just like, it's really hard.
I have no
for a
problem
student to do
submitting
it.
my own if you just show us the first time. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
And maybe the chairs, if
chairs
they
could
had
absorb their
a,
own business.
Yeah, I mean.
That's a very
whatever.
efficient model.
yeah,
Okay,
then it's
if
1
the
hour a
chairs-
month.
If the chairs will absorb and the process of writing their own CIS, we can get it posted.
I mean, the CIS is inherent usually on the agenda item.
Right,
It's all
but
copy
it's,
paste.
what
basically,
that
right?
doesn't have on the agenda item is, who does it go to?
Right.
Okay? Because
There's a template,
There's a
and-
template that you have to have,
Right.
and it's
Okay.
all the people that it goes to.
So,
And that takes time to get all of those people, and they're different for everyone,
Right.
and so the letter has to be adapted for everyone, and some have to go filed manually, and some can be, most of everything can go electronically, and most of the ones I do, I just say via email only and transmit it, and then the posting happens. The posting doesn't take a long time. What takes a long time is getting the information from the chairs to get the stuff in. And because I followed up with you before on, hey, where did you want this to go, when there was no one doing it, so. I
Mine
just
seems
think,
pretty easy, right, for
Right.
this month, so you could
If-
show me, or.
yeah, if you know where you want it to go, that's the important thing, and that's one
I
of the
just want it
things
in the
that.
council file, right?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, if that's the only place you want it to go, then there still needs to be a letter, and the letter needs to be addressed to someone. So you need to know who you want your letter addressed to, and then that letter gets uploaded to
So
the
the
council
most
file.
basic would be to the council clerk?
You could just do to the whole city council if you want, and then that's easy,
There's a template, and why don't the three of you discuss it further?
All right.
via
We'll do it.
email
I'll send
and all
out
that,
the
and,
template
okay?
to you, Craig.
Do-
Just so you have
Do
that.
what you would do for this, your recommendation for this one, and then maybe I'll expand it,
All right.
Okay,
just as a starting point.
I'll send you something.
All right, I'll do it.
I submitted it.
Public
Okay.
comment on number 15.
Yeah. No, 16.
I would like to point out that you're absolutely correct. If you're going to replace the corresponding chair, you have to have it on a board agenda. I would also point out that if you're going to change things so that the chairs of the different committees are responsible for submitting their CISs, public comments, or whatever the hell it is they're filing, you need to change both the bylaws and the operating procedures. And of course, then the board will have to approve those changes. And if you're going to devolve it down to the chairs, which actually seems like a pretty sensible thing to do, then the board also needs to consider whether or not you want to eliminate the position of corresponding secretary. And like I said, all those things require votes, motions brought from the committee or motions brought directly under the bylaws, the GS or whatever, to make the fundamental changes in the documents, because until the documents are changed, you got to follow the old ones. Now, putting a Band-Aid on and doing it this way on the side is one thing, but somebody will complain, and then Gibson will be back here running his mouth again, and we're playing that same old game. So consider twice before you decide what it is you want to do.
Well, right now, we're going to see if the chairs of these two committees can handle this.
Stay in Band-Aid mode.
Yeah, and we're in Band-Aid mode, and.
Do the bylaws specify that it's the corresponding secretary, or they say the secretary or the corresponding?
The corresponding secretary does this, so we're supposed to have a corresponding secretary.
But that officer is the only officer that need not be a member of the board, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
So we could, so I'm not opposed to the idea that Alex mentioned about hiring that person, or drawing from outside of the board for somebody in the community that might be interested in doing that work.
And that would have to go to budget.
Is it enough work? It literally, do you know how long it takes to send one? I mean, it's really not.
It's going to go up and down depending on how many.
I write a lot of emails, and I do submit comments to the city regularly, and no, I don't want to take it on.
Well, I would say everybody needs to think about who wants to be the corresponding secretary, we need a corresponding secretary. So right
I
now.
stand corrected. The corresponding secretary is an officer of the board and therefore has to be a board.
Must be on the board, okay.
So right now, we're in Band-Aid mode, but
Okay.
we need a corresponding secretary, so I'll put it on the next agenda, and we can discuss it
Do
again.
we have elections coming up in June again for board
It's,
positions?
May. May.
Quick, I have a
We can
question.
Band-Aid mode until May, but we need to come up with,
That's good,
somebody.
if we know that, at least then we have some.
A time period for,
Yeah.
a time certain.
And we
to
know
address it.
where we need to pick up the pieces and kind of
Right.
get it done,
Yes.
that's good.
So where are you at with replacing John at this point?
Well, I mean, we've tried to contact him.
Right.
He does not respond to emails, he just doesn't respond, and he has not, told us that he's not coming back, so we're kind of, what he is, and now, what do we do, because we don't have any definitions about what absences are and what they do, so we would have to sit down as a board, we'd have to get three board members to say we want to get rid of him, and then we have to get a new person to replace him and a recording secretary. We had hopes that he would at least come.
What seat is he's a
respond.
renter, right? Renter seat? What seat does he?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's at least an option to vote him, have three people.
Have we tried calling him at work? Is he at work? I mean, is he just
He
not
does
responding
not.
at all?
He does not respond at all. He's just somewhere out in Neverland.
But he was at Luminario with the.
Right, but that was the last time we've seen him, was Luminario.
He looked great.
For a moment, you looked great. We couldn't tell you.
We have.
I just sent him one, I
Can
think.
you please just do this?
Yeah,
Save us all from.
right, because,
Just
sure he'll
formally
do that.
resign.
I'm sure he'll
well,
do
we tried to contact him.
I know.
But you know, you've given him an hour. Say, look, can you just say?
I am too, that's mine, that's
Well, I had just one other point that I wanted to make. I'm sorry, Patrick.
mine. Yeah, I have one coming through.
Okay, at the last meeting, and it was in the minutes, and I don't know how many of you focused on the minutes, and I probably should have addressed it when we were approving the minutes. But at any rate, at the last board meeting, when we voted to make the change to allow the youth member to vote, the bylaws require that kind of, a change in the bylaws, it would be required to do that, and a change in the bylaws require 2/3. I thought there were 12 members present, but Rob had joined the meeting. There were actually 13 members present. So 8 over 13 doesn't get us to the 2/3. So that actually didn't pass, and that correction was in the minutes I sent out to you. But I didn't want it to just be like slipped by as to why I wanted to be like open with everybody going, okay, this is what happened. So if we really want to bring that back, it would have to come back to the board again as a motion for reconsideration. And it would have to be, and that motion for reconsideration would have to be brought by a member of the board who voted against it because it effectively failed. So the prevailing side has to be the one that's asking to reconsider it. And the prevailing side is the failed side, even though we thought that night it had passed. So I apologize for that, but when I followed up on it, that's where we are. So that's just out there for full and informative disclosure. It was in the minutes, but I need to be sure that everybody understands it. Okay? Yes, I'm sorry.
No, I don't mean to cut you off. I just, in regard to the bylaws, just to remind myself, and I'm sorry to ask this at this point, but when we talk about a bylaw change, we're not talking about something that if we pass that change, it becomes immediately active anyway, right?
It has to then go through the application process.
It won't be.
But the application process,
Exactly. The end of the year.
right, but we
Till
wouldn't
the end
even,
of
but we're not
of
even
this
putting
year.
in the application process, which is
No,
what Gibson
I
was
understand.
saying. And I
Yeah.
wanted everyone to understand
Right.
here why there was no application process
Right.
for it, because the count was wrong.
What agenda item are we on right now?
16.
We're not.
The board comments,
Comments on things in the board.
Right. so that was all I was trying to say.
Andrew has something.
Andrew?
Yeah, like, we're on 16, I have two comments. One, tomorrow at City Council in Van Nuys, they're bringing up the protected tree ordinance, and they're thinking of adding bushes, shrubs to it, and this board supported that, and I think they made a big mistake. And I've sent letters out, and this Toyon and mulberry, or this Mexican berry, they're bushes.
Point of order.
No,
Which board?
Our board,
our board, and it was also kind of railroaded through the Sustainability Committee, and it was a very strange thing. I ended up quitting the Sustainability because of that. The person who brought it up was not straightforward or honest, and I just think it was a big mistake, and it'll be a big mistake if it passes. And then also, if there's some clarification, we voted down the clarifications or new rulings on absences and stuff. And so I don't really know where we stand. Like, if someone doesn't show up for 3 straight meetings, then we turn the other cheek and kumbaya and just move on.
No, we've reached out to them at the moment.
No, I don't care about that. I'm saying people who get up and leave or whatever, it's just kumbaya and let's all get together. I need a clarification. I don't understand how it ended up and what we do to actually get someone who has no interest in being on the board.
you mean to have them removed?
Yeah.
The current process would be that because they didn't accept the fact that the president could just do it, there was an issue with that or the manner that was done. And I'm not trying to put any salt anywhere on any wounds, but what we would have to do is for 3 board members would agree that this needs to happen, and then that comes to the board as an agenda item, and then the board has to vote on that, on the removal of that.
Where does it come with the 3? Do they do it on their own? Is this some Brown meeting that they can't meet more
No.
than 4
Gibson
people?
sent around the
Richard,
instructions
part of
today.
Right.
it's part of the bylaws,
Right.
of moving
Is that in
a
here?
board member.
That's in what he sent out?
It's
here?
like removing an officer, but
Right.
it's just removing a board member. It's
Right.
very similar, is my understanding.
It's I don't know if you've got this, I'm sorry Denise, but Patrice brought this tonight, which was really helpful. It's the information that Gibson sent out today, and it says we have to have
Yeah,
a
I saw
petition,
that.
and we have to have 3 board members basically
So
sign
that's
it.
what governs now.
That's the
Okay.
existing methodology.
Okay.
And
I
thank you,
understand.
because I hadn't gotten that on time.
I
It's
read
really
it.
helpful to have that tonight.
I have one quick comment, which is on my assignment last month was to, there was something about a committee, but I didn't quite understand, but I understood that we were going to figure out a way to write down that audio and video recordings of our committee and meetings would be something we all want to do, and so I wrote that language, and I copied the board, so the board can review it, and if the president feels that it's appropriate to put on the agenda, we could do that. Or if the president feels that it has to go to either, bylaws or GAC, I don't know if it's a bylaw change, because I believe that we should be doing it. That's why we bought the equipment, and it takes one, the chairs can make the recordings and the language speaks for
I
itself.
don't think it has to be a bylaw, it could be an operating procedure that does not require
The two-thirds.
the two-thirds of
Yeah.
an approval.
So feel free to.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know what to tell you.
Well,
But
it's submitted.
we'll look at what it is and maybe budget committee if you have to have money. But it needs to come to the board, so I'll search for it tomorrow.
All right, so Eric, I'm looking at the email and it says, how about this? And there's just it doesn't have any attachment.
You know what, I got it, though. I think you're having an issue.
Yeah, you
'Cause
have
I-
an issue.
So there's
I
an
think-
attachment
Yeah, I
on
read
yours
it.
that I'm not
Yeah.
getting?
Okay.
It's weird, okay. Sorry, I'm not trying to
Go
waste
back to
time.
the
Yeah, no.
original email.
In fact, I sent you an email with his attachment.
Okay, I think we're.
Do you see that?
done here. Closing comments,
Do you see?
Teresa, thank you for sticking it out. I'm impressed.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second.
I got a motion